said anywhere. You will always have, even if it's, it's generally a positive relationship. You can't even say at any institution that it'll always be a positive relationship, even on a particular day. But overall, I think that you're hearing us say, we find the people who make us better at what we're doing. And that's the experience I've had.
To speak to that, to the issue of, just seeking advice as a graduate student, it's completely, it can be completely terrifying in whatever institution you're based on. And this is something that, I've gotten advice about about asking for advice from students here at other institutions, because being a graduate student is an experience of precarity. Your professors, you have this feeling that your professors do have a lot of influence on your future, on your opportunities, because they will write your recommendations, of course. And so the first time that you ask for a recommendation might be very scary for you, but what I've found anyhow is that the people that I have sought advice from and who have, that they've already become like mentors to me and have pointed me in directions towards publications I might want to consider for my future work, or have encouraged me to apply for special scholarship opportunities. And so it's unfortunately it's going to be a bit scary, but I only have positive things to say about the particular aspects related to CUNY and my experience of being advised and asking for mentorship.
Yeah, I would like to say that I was mentored from before I got here, because Carrie really helped me out a lot in just figuring out what I'm doing with my life. Like, I came in and I sat down and she was just like, oh, look at this mess, I'm just going to make him smile a little. And she did, and it was great, right? And so that's where it started. And then I got really lucky. So as a first year, I assigned a mentor. And the first time I meet my mentor, she takes me down and she's just like, let's just sit over a cup of tea and talk. And then she's invited me over to her home for brunch and everything. And that's all the cutesy stuff, right? But even in class, I feel and I've been in classes mainly which I shouldn't necessarily fit into, because I don't normally do anything like that. But my professors have taken the time to listen and also tell me when I'm going too crazy, right? And I'm a first year, so I can't tell you too much about advising yet. I talk to the people who I've taken classes with and my mentor who's been assigned to me, but I've been here one semester and 1 month. But in that time, at least, the small things I've done, write end of semester papers and stuff, I've gotten a lot of support and also just good advice on how to go about it, on when I need to calm down and just stop thinking I'm already an expert and stuff like that. People are good with that. People are just you don't need to impress me so much, just calm down. It's fine. And that's really useful, because when you come in, you're just oh my god, I'm a PhD student, I have to prove so much more, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. But then maybe you don't, I don't know. Productivity is interesting.
If I could make one more comment that sort of addresses this issue of mentorship. I think one of the things that's unique about the way the Graduate Center works is the fact that it draws a lot of its faculty from the other campuses. And what that means is the majority of the people that we're all referring to as quote-unquote faculty are appointed faculty, which means that they work primarily on their other campuses. And so they come here both because they're teaching in a particular semester, but if they're not, or whatever reason, they come here because they want to be here and work with students. And a lot of other places, those people sit in that department and they're full-time professors, and not that the people who are appointed are not full-time professors, but rather their job is to sit in their office in that particular department, and that's what they do all the time. Whereas some of the professors here don't have to come to this building every day or often and engage with students. And so the fact that you see them doing that is already evidence of the fact that they want to be here and talk with you all and have these types of conversations. If they didn't, they would be at their office at Lehman or City or Queens or one of these other ones. So just the fact that this space is full right now, I mean, there's a couple Central Line people that I see, but not many. Like, the vast majority of the faculty that you're seeing around here are people who are here because they care in a very real, sort of demonstrable way.
And I think that it's just worth mentioning that we're here because it brings us joy. I mean, it makes us feel good. And sometimes. I mean, there's pain and everything. But and so I encourage you to talk to us and ask us about any questions you have. Kind of get a sense of what each of us works on, what we do, who we talk to, what we like to think about. I just want to thank our panelists.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And I'll add too that the day before I took my orals exam, one of my professors on my committee was like, make sure you sleep and eat a good breakfast tomorrow. It's going to be fine. And so I think the faculty are very encouraging and also wonderfully okay when you disagree with them and even invite that in a lot of ways. So thank you so much for our panelists. Thank you, Seth, for moderating. That was wonderful. And now for the next part of our evening, before the reception, I'd like to introduce Professor Emil Alcalay, who's going to talk about the numbers and the math and the brass tacks of things that, not really, but thank you.
Thank you. I just want to say I've been the Deputy Executive Officer of Placement for, I think, close to 10 years now. And it's indicative of the nature of this program that I have been doing that, because I'm really the last person that one would think ought to be doing this, because I really have a very different approach to academia. And, you know, I'm a City College dropout who somehow cobbled together a BA, ended up coming back and getting a doctorate. I've done all kinds of work in my life of, you know, a very long list. And so my approach to this has been very different. I don't go to conferences. I don't do a lot of things that academics are supposed to do. But I'm very proud of what we've done here. I'm extremely proud of what we've done here. Over the course of these years, I have gotten to know very closely over probably 250 students who have gone out onto the job market, who are now working all over the country, who are established academics, who are extraordinary people who represent our program and what they've gotten from us in so many different ways. And in fact, I think what we've been able to do here has become a model for the GC, because the English program really innovated in many ways in terms of guiding students who were teaching on the campuses, in terms of very hands-on job placement. It's more about the relationship than any kind of professionalization. I mean, it's about taking phone calls from people panicking on their way to an airport, on their way to an interview. It's about, you know, just being a close reader of people's work and of their aspirations, and figuring out how to make them present themselves as best they can. And I've always thought in our job placement that we do, and it's been mentioned a number of times, that we do have the X factor. And the X factor is if you can navigate CUNY and come out of here, you have such a higher, you're coming out. I know, having been on so many hiring committees myself, when you see somebody who actually seems like they know what they're doing and you can give them the keys to the office and not worry about it, you're very reassured. And our students are like that because there's a lot to navigate here. It's a complex system. You're being asked to do a lot. You are responsible for many things. And it gives you a tremendous advantage in how you think about yourself, as many of the things I would echo many of the things that Siraj said, you know, many of the things that Leilani said about what the deeper meaning of this endeavor is, but also how you go about doing your business and how you do it well. And I think we've done an extraordinary job with that. And I won't give you the numbers, they're on our website. You can see where our alumni are. And the Grad Center itself actually has created several new entities that, because many programs were not doing as good a job as we were, and they really took this as a model and have emulated it with a new teaching and learning center headed by Luke Waltzer, who's a graduate of our program. And so there's a lot of support that has been built in at the Graduate Center altogether. So that's what I would say about placement. I'll just put on my other hat for a second and just say a few words about the Lost and Found project, which emerges out of the program and out of the Center for the Humanities. And I would just mention the Center for the Humanities as a place where students can go to initiate all kinds of incredible projects, events, public events. Lost and Found, as many of you may know, we're in our 7th year now. We've done over 35 student-edited projects, including books with City Lights, the Feminist Press, University of New Mexico, prize-winning projects. It's a very complex and important endeavor, I think, which brings students out of this academic space and into the public, and brings writers into this academic space to interact, people who are not academically affiliated, many elders who are great, heroic figures in many ways. Often there are public events that emerge out of these encounters. We did a reunion of the Umbra Arts Workshop, which was a precursor to the Black Arts Movement, a very important event that we did here. We did the 100th anniversary of Sun Ra, which also emerged out of Lost and Found. And you can look at the website at the Center for the Humanities to find out more about it. We have stipends for students to do research. Our new series will be out in April. We have a wonderful quote from our new poet laureate, Juan Felipe Herrera, who's on our board. And you can always ask me for more info. Thanks.
Thank you. And now to introduce Nancy Silverman, our Assistant Program Officer. You've probably received some emails from her. Just go.
Hi, everybody. I met most of you earlier today, helped you with your name tags and so on. So how many of you, just of the prospective students, how many of you, other places where you've applied or that you thought about applying or you encountered, you saw something called a graduate advisor? Nobody? At any other institution? Okay, well, we don't have one. Most places have them. My job, in part, is to help advise students, to be the resource person in terms of procedures and policy. I am the expert in the program on procedures and policy. It's not that exciting. It is exciting for me when a student comes to me and I'm able to help clarify something that seems like it's a small policy or procedure question, but really is touching on a larger issue. So a student will come to me, for example, and say, when am I supposed to do my orals? And while I can answer that question, what it ends up happening is I'll say to the person, would you like to have a seat at my desk? And they do. And we end up having a conversation not just so much about when they should do their orals, but what they're thinking about and how to approach faculty to work with them on their orals, why they're anxious about doing their orals, whether they're in fact doing their orals and avoiding our 2-language requirement issue, which is very common, and why I might divert that conversation into, yes, you should think about your orals, but I also see you have satisfied neither one of our 2-language requirements, and I'm quite concerned about that. Don't forget about that. That's part of my job. That's my favorite part of the job. My next part of my job, and the next favorite part of my job, is that program coordinator position, which is something that I use on my signature in my email, because nobody outside of here knows what an assistant program officer is. We have funny titles here. There's nobody that's called a program officer, so I don't know what an assistant program officer is. So I call myself out in the world a program coordinator. And as a program coordinator, one of the things that I do that is helpful to current students and students who are actually thinking about our program is that I do things like work with the other members of the administrative team, Carrie Hintz, who's the Deputy Executive Officer for Admissions, again, very strange titles, and Mario DiGangi, who's currently the Executive Officer, which would be chair someplace else, on admissions. So all of you received an email from me letting you know the status of your application, whether you're admitted or waitlisted. You also got a reminder about this event. You'll get lots of contact from me. I also coordinate other kinds of things. For example, those of you who were here earlier, you had lunch, you might have had coffee. I have an assistant who does the actual ordering of those things in facilities to make the room look like it did, but I oversee that, make sure that happens. The least favorite part of my job, and you should never, ever, ever, and now current students, especially faculty, should hear this clearly. You should never, ever refer to me this way, but part of my job is to act as the administrative assistant for the program. It is my least favorite part of the job, and you should never, ever refer to me in that way. That is because the setup of our institution is that we don't have secretaries, or we don't have administrative assistants in programs, and so especially faculty who are new to our program, who come from the campuses where there are administrative staff, and some of you might come here from places where you're used to having administrative staff, might be confused about that. It's understandable. We simply don't have it. So part of my job, my least favorite, is doing things like, well, I won't even tell you what those things are, but I do them. Anyway, but one of my favorite things, just getting back to the advising part, one of my favorite things to do is when you come here, you will be assigned a faculty mentor, somebody that you will work with conceivably for your first couple of years until you get a supervisor, somebody that you work with on your dissertation, but probably your first and second year. It is not just like anything else here. It is not set in stone. It is just a suggestion. Because when you're coming and you don't know people, but often people come in and soon after that they realize that they start working with somebody else and that person becomes their mentor or their advisor. There's no forms to fill out, nothing to report. You are free to work with who you like, and that's a really fantastic thing here. Another part of my favorite thing working with incoming students is each of you that are admitted and come to us will have a 5-year fellowship. In the first year of your fellowship, you do service, 7.5 hours a week of service to faculty. I make those assignments, and I do that based on student stated interests, and often those relationships you develop with the person that you assist, you become very close with them, you're working closely with them, and that's a really great opportunity for students to do high-level research and work and to develop relationships with faculty. So that's all I have for you now. Some of you, Carrie's going to talk a little bit about this, but already people have asked me, and since I said I'm the expert in policy and procedure, Carrie and Mario are also quite expert at that. We don't talk about specifics now with you all, so somebody already asked me about transfer credit and so on and so on. What I encourage you to do at this point, I know some of you are anxious, and we will talk a little bit about that, but I encourage you to make use of our excellent website, which has all kinds of information in it, and I'll see you at the reception. Great.
Thank you, Nancy. I'm Carrie Hintz. I'm the chair of admissions, and I teach here and at Queens College. Before I introduce our next speaker, I want to do two things. I want to extend an invitation for an additional event. The Children's Lit discussion group is going to go to the exhibit Fairy Tale Fashion tomorrow at 10 o'clock. So if you're interested in hearing more about that, we are, of course, a very glamorous program, beautifully dressed and physically and emotionally attractive in every way. So please join us for Fairy Tale Fashion. Wear your sparkly red shoes and your red capes, and we'll be there as well. And I, of course, before introducing our next speaker, want to say thank you to the recruitment committee. Let's have a big whoop for the recruitment committee for their excellent effort. Oh, did I just do something? Yeah. Okay.
Step further away.
Step away.
Yes.
Okay.
And the admissions committee, and we had a big spike up in the number of admissions we received. So the admissions, as one voice, the members of the admissions committee said, you really undersold how much work this was going to be, because they were reading many, many more applications than they had actually signed up for. So thank you, heroic admissions committee, which is 25% student involvement in that committee. So we're really proud of it. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce Duncan Faraday, who is the director of the Early Research Initiative, because we get a lot of questions about resources available to you early in career, and he has many wonderful ideas to share with you.